welcome. And thank you for joining us for a Friday, as I like to refer to it, as an Ask and Answered episode brought to you by the Fundraising Academy. Also, all of our very generous presenting sponsors, you can see their logos right in front of you on the screen. We are so extremely grateful and appreciative to have these companies supporting these episodes, supporting you in the sector, doing your community service and all the great work that you're doing. These companies literally exist to help you do more good. So if you have not checked them out, please make sure that you do, because they want to lean into you and your community and help you serve your community in a greater, bigger way. I'm Jarrett Ransom, nonprofit nerd, CEO of the Raven Group, and I am thrilled to have today's special guest join us, again from California, Laura White. Laura is the president with the USS Midway Foundation. Welcome to you, Laura.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm not in San Diego right now. I'm up in the mountains, up in Big Bear kind of area. It's pouring, it's windy. So if you hear all that going on around me, there might be a thunderstorm here. So forgive me if I go, because in Southern California, we don't do weather. There's no such thing as weather. So the minute it starts raining, we get excited. So typically, is your office on this beautiful USS Midway Foundation ship? Is it a ship? I mean, tell us more about the foundation in which you work. Sure. So it's the USS Midway Museum is an aircraft carrier. It was the longest serving aircraft carrier in the 20th century. And somehow it found its way back to San Diego. They saved it. A big group of people from San Diego decided to save it, bought it from the Department of Defense for $1. And it's been there. They officially opened in 2012, and it's now the most popular military museum of any kind, and the fourth most popular visited museum in the US, even behind like Met and all of it. Yeah. So
$1.
Yeah, they bought it for $1. Now, I wish that's all it costs to keep it up to date, but not so much. So It's there. We've been there 17 years now. It's just a really fun. It's a very touch and feel type of thing. You're not going to break anything on the Midway. And I think the big part about it is that it's just huge. If you're a civilian and you've never been anywhere near an aircraft carrier, it just blows your mind the minute you walk on. I always think of like my condo and where my condo would fit. And it's about the size of the women's restrooms upstairs, the hangar bay. So part of the Midway Museum is the Midway Foundation. And that was developed about 6 years ago to start looking at the community outward. The Midway Museum does pretty well financially. The operating expenses are pretty much taken care of by ticket admissions.
Yeah,
it's about pretty much a wash there. And so starting the foundation was like, okay, how can we go out into the community and raise even more dollars and pass this goodwill that the museum has had out back into the community? So our focus is two things. One is to build an endowment that supports the education program on the ship, which is an incredible education, hands-on, come spend the night, come feel what it was like to be a sailor, do STEM, all sorts of stuff, on board or virtually. And then two is to support first responders, veterans, and active duty families in San Diego County. So we just a couple days ago granted $305,000 to 12 organizations, and we'll do another $200,000 next year. And our goal is to do about $1 million a year in grants. So yeah.
That is fantastic. I love hearing about that and all that you do. And I feel so grateful to have you here as a guest. And then you also are a representative with the Fundraising Academy, which is what brings you here with us today. So grateful to have you here. Yeah. I want to get us started with our first question. And as the special guest, right, like for most of you that are joining me, this is very familiar. So I'm just going to read them aloud. Laura, would love to know your professional experience and expertise. So our first question comes to us from Michael in Chicago. And Michael asks, we want to start a nonprofit that supports vets in our community who are experiencing addiction issues. is there any direction we need to take in order to work with clients associated with the military? We are not looking for military funding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just spent 5 years prior to joining the Midway Foundation at an organization called Support the Enlisted Project. And their basic goal was working with junior enlisted active duty families who are experiencing a financial crisis, and they were not funded by the military at all. They're 100% privately funded. And it's not easy to work with the military to have access to either active duty or transitioning out. So I think my first question would be clients associated with the military. Would that specifically be veterans? And then what other vets and what other organizations in Chicago are doing some sort of this work, right? I would probably start there. And if you're interested in starting is because you feel like there's a lack of that, the VA obviously has programs. There's going to be some programs in Chicago, and maybe visit them, see where they're at, see how long they've been around, see where most of their funding comes from. And if you've already done all that, then you want to get, you're going to want to get a MOU with the Department of Defense, which I know sounds crazy, but it's not as crazy you might think that it is. There's some paperwork involved, but that allows you to then go onto bases and talk to active duty military and other programs that are on base and work with their veteran transition programs too, as folks are getting out. Yeah, it's tough. You got to build your own reputation with the military. They can be tough. They've got a lot of rules. They can be real sticklers, but they're also very grateful for organizations that want to support their soldiers and sailors too. But yeah, that's not an easy task.
You are very versed in that. And I love your answer. And I too would agree with what Laura shared and reiterate, find out if there's other organizations doing a similar service and see if you can, talk to them, find out how your services might complement theirs. And again, if there is that lack, as what Laura just shared, if there's a lack of services or a gap of services in your community, find out how you might be able to provide these resources and solutions to that demographic. So I don't think I can add more on the military front as Laura did. That's definitely your zone of genius and area of expertise. So we wish you luck, Michael, and we hope that that what we've provided will help move your idea forward. Let's jump to this one from Sarah in Colorado. Sarah writes in and asks, we are ready to welcome our volunteers back to our campus, and we are following strict mandates due to COVID. And while we want to be vigilant, we want to be welcoming. Do you have any ideas on how to do this with our dedicated volunteers and even new volunteers?
Yeah, so this is a good question. A lot of things people are grappling with right now. So the USS Midway has about 900 volunteers throughout the year. It's the only reason the ship can actually operate. On any given day, there's about 50 volunteers. We wouldn't be able to open the doors without volunteers. It's how the Midway has been able to be successful, because it takes a lot of people and a lot of manpower to even an aircraft carrier that's just sitting still. And so you really have to tap into why is it that they're coming to the organization, right? Are they getting some social goodwill out of it? Are they staying connected? Are they older and want to just continue to use your brain? I would suggest surveying them to get started. Maybe send out a quick survey to say, here's what our plans are. Do you feel comfortable with this? Does this work for you? Give them some options and some, hey, if you have any additional suggestions. I'd also probably call my top volunteers, any leads or committee chairs or board chairs and stuff, and just walk through what the process is going to be and make sure that they feel comfortable with it as well, and see if they have any suggestions. When I worked at Support the Enlisted Project, we had volunteers every day. We posted on all of the doors what the organization's current philosophy or rules were, which was pretty much we were going to follow CDC guidelines, follow state, and then follow county, right? And typically those were all in line. Every once in a while, one was a little bit different than the other. So we just kept up current. As of this date, these are what the CDC's guidelines are. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. maybe if you all are volunteering in smaller spaces, maybe you just say, we've decided that we're going to continue to wear masks, and here's the reason why. You're probably going to get a volunteer too that doesn't like the rules or the new rules, or doesn't think that they're strict enough or too strict. And that's just on an individual basis, have that conversation with that person. And it might mean that they need to maybe hold off volunteering for a little while. But yeah, I think surveying people, I always love to give people the opportunity to give feedback, and then see if what you've decided kind of aligns with what they're thinking as well. And most likely it does.
That reminds me of this quote, and I wish I knew the author, but people support that in which they help create, right? And so by surveying and really, asking for people's opinion and taking that into consideration. And then, as you said, Laura, calling your top volunteers to really solicit at a deeper level. It also reminds me truly on that return on relationship, which we've always been focused on ROI, return on investment. And here at the Nonprofit Show, we've been talking a lot about this return on relationship. So people support that in which they help create. Why not ask for their opinion, ask for their level of comfortability? We've talked a little bit about this previously on the show when it comes to events, and talking a little bit about, do we have an in-person event? Do we stay tandem or hybrid? And really, I think to your point, Laura, sticking with these CDC guidelines, that is something that I think so many of us across the nation are familiar with, right? We hear it from the news to our medical offices, to our nonprofit organizations. So sticking to those guidelines, I think is still a very safe way and a very considerate way to continue.
I like your ROR. I like that return on. It's anytime I have an opportunity to call someone, a donor, a volunteer that has nothing to do with asking them to do something or give me money, I can just have a conversation with them. I think it goes big to that ROR. I love that. I like that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to steal that. I'm stealing it.
Good. Steal it. It's a little bit more difficult to measure, but it's also very important. So this is a name withheld from your area. We'll just say California. And this person says, this is an odd question, but how many years apart should one get a new headshot? Our executive team has photos that I swear were taken 15 years ago, and they don't look anything like us now. I have a photographer who is donating headshot sessions for our team. I love this question.
I don't think it's odd. I think it's so funny. And it's funny you should ask, because the headshot that you all used for this, for me, it was from 2010. So I don't know that I'm the best person to ask for this. I think the minute you add glasses or even a little bit of gray hair, I think it's probably time to update the photo, but I don't know that I would get hung up on it too much. I always think about how do I feel when I walk into an event and I see the person I saw the picture of and then the person I see on stage, and I kind of giggle to myself like, I probably should update that headshot. And now you all are probably saying the same thing about me, so I need to take my own advice. I think the minute you can kind of make that connection that, that's probably it. But anytime you have a photographer willing to donate their time, I would jump on that no matter what, no matter where you're at in your career headshot photos.
I would too. And I love when, this is a talent and a service that's offered. All of us are aging, or, to our best benefit, we're aging because it's better than the alternative. But for me, and this is, I love to talk about my headshots. My photographer always laughs, Laura, because I tend to do a lot of different things with my hair. That is how I show and express myself and my personality. So I have headshots with short hair, with long hair. Even this style is newer as of this week. And so I use it in an interchangeable manner. But I do think that when it comes to like hairstyles, it's more acceptable than if you're looking 20 years younger than what you truly are. You might feel, as we would say in the, Urban Dictionary, a little bit of catfished, right? Where it's like, wait, I thought I was meeting someone that looked different for coffee or lunch, and you look nothing like this person. I think also we can take very, going to call them like low budget, whether it's a selfie or someone in your office takes a photo for the website. I think those can be updated maybe more regularly than, let's say, if you're being acknowledged for an award, as our Julia Patrick is today, then you might want something that's a little bit more up to date and current. So that's a great question. And yeah, I maybe 3-5 years is something that I would put if I had to put a timeline on it. Yeah. So, all right.
I need to get mine updated. Okay. Noted.
Noted. No catfishing, Laura. No catfishing. Okay. This one comes into us from Texas. Our board, parentheses, nominating committee, is floating the idea that all incoming board chairs need to resign from any boards that they may be sitting on. The sentiment is that a chair who is involved with too many nonprofits will not be able to serve ours. That is an interesting question. What do you say, Laura?
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
22 years. I've never heard of that, that sentiment or that idea. I personally think that would work potentially against you. You're going to get some pushback. If I was a chair of 2 organizations, or if I was on a board of a handful of other organizations, how do you know which one is the most important to me or the most valuable, or I feel most valuable because I'm on several chairs? And also access, there's other organizations are doing great things out there. You want your board members and even your chairs out in the community knowing what's going on. If you're struggling with an issue and they're on another organization that's maybe not, or struggled with it and got through it, wouldn't it be great to have that knowledge and that skill set and experience out there? Yeah, I would stay away from that. I would stay away from telling anyone that's volunteering their time kind of what to do. I guess I could see if maybe there's proprietary things, or if it was a hospital or a biotech company or something. But if it's just about a measure of time, I think we have to leave that up to the adults to decide, what's too much time for them or not.
I've never heard it either. And it makes me think, and something that Tony Bell and I have talked about before from Fundraising Academy on the show, when organizations are at different points in their life cycle. And so if you're serving on one board, it could be in a very mature place in the life cycle, while another one could still be very much grassroots startup. And so you're not quite sure when it comes to the organization, the demands, the expectations of the board members. I love, love, love your answer, Laura, of let's let the adults make that decision for themselves. That seems very mature, and which I love that response so much. Yeah. It also makes me think of the best practices that these board members are gaining and experiencing by serving, witnessing, observing with other peers and other organizations, and what they bring to your organization. I would hate for you to lose that.
Ditto. Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. And so let's see, between the two of us, we'll say 40 plus years of us never hearing this request from a nominating committee, floating the idea, asking board chairs to resign. So
Tomas, you can quote that if you want.
Yes.
I heard from 2 experts that said.
Yeah. Have your nominating committee contact us. Let's go there. Well, this is likely our last question from Nan in Newark, New Jersey. And Nan asked us or states this question. We have lost several good hires recently because we had a long, drawn out hiring process. I feel like I need to say it that way. This is mainly due to scheduling several meetings with department heads. Should we do one large Zoom meeting where everyone is on the call, or do the smaller 2 to 3 person meetups? So kind of looking at this hiring process and the timeline.
Yeah, hiring is so tough right now. There are so many jobs available and jobs out there and people jumping fields and trying to do something totally different. I think that to look at your hiring practices from beginning to end, and this is the moment to do it. But yeah, if you're seeing a consistency that's going too long, there's got to be buy-in from team and staff, right? So if you're the person hiring that position and it's your responsibility, ultimately, they're going to be in your department. And maybe you're not the CEO, but you're the head of that department. You want buy-in from the rest of your department, right? You want them to feel like they're part of the process. I don't love big group interviews that are, if that's the only part of the interview. I don't mind what I like to do is I like to go out and find my top candidates, maybe get down to 2 or 3 and then bring those to the interviews. And it's kind of exhausting. And sometimes it's not fair to the last person, but what I'll do is I'll do the interviews back to back, right? So if I say to someone, I know you're a busy person in your department over there or wherever, I need 2 hours from you and I'm going to give you 2 people or 3 people within those 2 hours. And then that way it's just one chunk of time and not trying to pick people's schedules. It's also to communicate with your other counterparts or other people in the organization that when you're trying to get scheduled, how important this hire is to you. Everybody's our busy schedules. We always think ours is the biggest priority and the hottest, and who knows, maybe it is. If you're the fundraiser, it might be. But they've got busy schedules too. So here, I would love for all 3 of you to sit in on this, but I definitely, no matter what, I need 2 of you because I need both of your feedback, right? Just kind of decide, do you need everyone in? Is it a requirement? Does the VP and the CEO and the CFO all want to sit in? We'll make that part of that last process and do that on one day around the same time. So the commitment is just already done and over with. But you're right, shortening that is going to be a big deal, especially right now. People are getting job offers left and right.
Good right. For them. Yeah, that is a great, I love the recommendations that you provided there, Laura. And we've heard too from Staffing Boutique. Let's see, where is she? Right here. Katie with Staffing Boutique, she is constantly placing individuals into jobs in particular, in that New York community. And she said, if you like someone and they're a good fit and that's who you want, then continue making the steps to get them on board instead of drawing this out, which was, essentially the question is, how do we shorten this? Because we're losing these really good, talented hires opportunities because of the hiring process. So the workforce right now, as we all know, across the nation is bleak. It is, short. There are so many opportunities. It is definitely the employee, it leans to the employee side because there's so much going on in this time. And so I do think, as Laura said, let's see if we can shorten this. Let's see if we can condense the opportunity to say, give us 2 hours. We know it's going to be brutal. We know it's taking you away from your other long to-do list, but let's get these candidates in and out.
Sure. And communicate along the way, right? Yeah. So communicate with your candidate. If the minute you find the person that you think is great, but that they have 2 more steps to go through that could take a week or 2, communicate that with them. And then I always like to say, hey, if you think you're my number 1 candidate or you're my top 3 candidate, whatever, if you're going to get another job offer, will you just let me know? Right. And so keep that communication open, because you know what it's like. You've applied for a job and then you don't hear from them and it went great and everything's great. And they're like, great, we can't wait to, next steps. And then 2 weeks go by. Well, that 2 weeks might have just had nothing to do with you, right? Could be a worldwide pandemic going on or something. And so just make sure you're communicating with your candidates that you want to keep engaged.
Those clear expectations, those clear timelines, just so this is the process, this is the window that we're looking at. I recently helped a client hire their first executive director, and I will share that it was a long process, and that was intentional. And we also, we're very upfront with the candidates to say this is going to be a longer than normal process. Not only were we doing it during the summer, but, if anyone's paying attention, you all know about this global pandemic that has also really, really been happening. I know. Where have I been? So I love that piece, Laura, is to stay, transparent and share that information with the candidates so that they're not saying, why is this taking so long? This is absurd. So good luck with your hire. I know there's a lot going on out there, but Laura, it has been fantastic. And look at that headshot.
Right? I mean, it was taken yesterday.
Absolutely. We are so grateful to have you. Again, Laura White joins us as a representative with Fundraising Academy, who underwrites our Fry-Yay Ask and Answered episodes. Laura also serves as the president for USS Midway Foundation. So thrilled to have you with us.
Thank
you. You've got 20 years of phenomenal expertise, in the trenches, as we say, all of the scar tissue and war stories to share.
Yeah. And now I'm working on an aircraft carrier. Who knew?
Aircraft carrier. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Laura. Yeah, it's been fantastic. And we would not have Laura, we would not have Ask and Answered, and we would not have almost 400 episodes if it weren't for these guys. So presenting sponsors that you can see on the screen. So extremely grateful to have their investment again in the episodes, the American Nonprofit Academy, but truly in this sector at large. These companies exist to help your days go smoother. So please do check them out. I think we all have an obligation to share good, positive news, and you can do that with their help. So thank you again to our presenting sponsors. Wow, another week. Here we are in October. Laura, again, it's been fantastic. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. I hope all of you have hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Julia started saying this and as our mantra when we end every episode, to please stay well so you can do well. Thanks again, Laura, and thanks to all of you for joining us. We'll see you again next week.